Inside the largest training base on the Deathworld, the air felt heavy like something was watching every living thing. The metal walls were tall and dark, shaking every few seconds as if some giant creature was breathing behind them. Recruits from different alien species waited in a long hall, their bodies tense, their eyes wide. They all knew today was the day of the breaker drill, the hardest and most dangerous training event in the galaxy. Many had heard stories about it, stories that said no one came out the same. Some said it tested the body, some said it tested the mind, and some whispered that it tested the soul itself. The recruits stood in full armor, hands shaking, claws clicking, tails curling in fear. The lights flickered above them like dying stars. Every time the lights blinked, someone jumped, someone always whispered, "Why did we come here? This place kills people." No one argued, they all felt the same, except one person. A human, a man named Hayes, sat alone on a metal crate at the end of the hall. He was not in armor, he was not holding any weapon, he was not even standing, he was eating lunch, calmly, softly, like he was having a break from a normal day on a peaceful planet. He chewed slowly, looked around, and smiled a little as if he enjoyed the atmosphere. His calmness scared everyone more than the drill itself. Two tall alien recruits stared at him with wide eyes. One whispered, "Does he not understand what is coming?" The other replied, "I think he does understand, that is the problem." Hayes looked up and waved at them with a friendly smile. They almost screamed. A deep alarm echoed through the hall. The sound was low and heavy, like the growl of a monster waking up. The walls shook harder, dust falling from the ceiling. A red light began flashing across the hallway. All recruits tightened their grips on their weapons. Their breathing became fast and sharp. Some even prayed softly in their own languages. But Hayes took another bite of his food, slow and calm, as if the alarm was simple background music. A mechanical voice spoke from the speakers, cold and sharp, "Breaker drill activation in 20 seconds, more shaking, more fear." Several recruits pressed themselves against the wall, others crouched low, a few even cried silently. Hayes simply finished his bite and reached for his water bottle. The mechanical voice returned, "Warning, survival rate statistically low." A strange metal smell filled the air, lights flashed faster, the training hall's entrance doors began to pull apart, gears grinding loudly. The opening was dark, too dark. Everyone stared at it, waiting for something to jump out, waiting for something to kill them. Their bodies froze in panic. Hayes looked at the door, then looked down at his food again. He did not even blink, he did not even pause. His heart rate stayed normal, completely normal. All the aliens around him felt sick just looking at his calm face. The doors finally blasted open with a violent force. Wind rushed through the hall, papers flew, dust turned into a storm. Something huge moved inside the dark chamber. The ground vibrated hard, making everyone stumble, except Hayes, who simply put one hand on the crate so his lunch would not fall. A giant metallic training unit stepped out. Its body was shaped like some beast from a nightmare, sharp legs, heavy arms, glowing red sensors. Every step made the ground shake like thunder. Recruits screamed, some fell on the floor, some ran behind pillars. The machine roared with a loud metallic howl. It sounded angry, hungry, alive. Everyone was terrified, everyone except Hayes, who slowly lifted his sandwich for another bite. He looked at the machine like someone watching a boring commercial on TV. The huge metal monster scanned the room, its red sensors flashing, locking onto every recruit. But when the sensors passed over Hayes, they flickered, glitched, and moved away like they refused to acknowledge him. No one understood what was happening. Why did it skip him? One alien whispered, "Is he invisible?" Another asked, "Is he stupid?" A third said trembling. The machine growled again and slammed one leg into the ground, sending a shockwave across the hall. Recruits fell like leaves in a storm, their armor dented, their weapons slid across the floor, but Hayes stayed in place, his hair barely moving from the shock. He finished his food, closed the empty box, and stood up slowly, stretching his arms like he just woke up from a nap. He looked at the machine with a small frown. "Can you keep it down? I'm trying to eat," he muttered in a calm voice. The aliens around him froze. The machine froze too, like it heard something it could not process. A second rumble shook the floor, louder, deeper. The machine's chest opened, revealing glowing cores spinning inside. It was entering its second attack mode. The air turned hotter, thicker. The lights flickered faster until the whole hall looked like a battlefield from a nightmare. Recruits crawled away from the center, terrified to even be near the machine. Hayes walked toward it with slow, relaxed steps. He did not look scared, he did not look worried, he looked curious. The machine raised its heavy metal arm, ready to strike. The whole hall held its breath. Every recruit watched, confused and terrified, wondering what the human would do, wondering why he was calm, wondering if he even understood what danger meant on this death world. And that was the moment when everyone realized something that made their hearts stop. Hayes was not the one in danger, the machine was. The giant machine raised its metal arm high, its claws shining with bright red heat. The air around it twisted like fire, the ground cracked under the pressure. All the recruits screamed at Hayes to run, some shouted his name, some covered their faces, some could not even breathe. They all thought the human would be crushed in the next second. But Hayes only tilted his head a little, like he was studying something interesting. He did not move away, he did not take a step back, he simply wiped his hands on his pants and looked at the glowing claws as if they were a strange toy. The machine slammed its arm down with full force. The sound was like a huge explosion. Dust shot up everywhere, metal shards flew, light panels broke from the ceiling. The recruits waited for the human to scream or to be thrown across the hall, but when the dust cleared, something unbelievable happened. Hayes was standing right where he had been, alive, calm, untouched. His hair was a little messy, but nothing else had changed. Even the machine seemed confused. It scanned its own arm, checked its claws, checked the floor, then scanned Hayes again. The results did not make sense to it. Its red sensor flickered like a glitch. It did not understand how a small human could survive a blow meant to crush armored soldiers. The recruits watched with open mouths. They whispered in fear, "This is impossible. What is he made of? Is this what humans are?" Hayes looked at the machine inside. "That was rude," he said softly. The alien stared at him like he was a ghost. The machine took a step back. Its heavy legs shook the ground, but this time the movement looked less confident, almost nervous. A swirling blue light appeared around the machine's chest, spinning faster and faster. It was preparing its gravity wave attack, an attack known to break bones, bend metal, and flatten entire squads. The instructors in the control room panicked. "Shut it down," one yelled. "It's too dangerous," another shouted, but the machine was already too deep into its command cycle. The drill could not be stopped. The gravity wave exploded outward like a silent storm. Everything in the room slammed into the floor. Recruits cried out in pain, their armor screeching as if crushed by invisible weight, weapons bent on impact. Even the thick pillars groaned as the pressure grew stronger and stronger. But Hayes did not fall. His boots slid an inch, then stopped. His body remained straight like nothing touched him. His breathing did not change. His heartbeat stayed steady. He walked forward, slowly, step by step, through the crushing gravity that was meant to kill everyone. The aliens could barely lift their heads to watch him. They could not understand what they were seeing. Hayes raised one hand and placed it gently on the machine's metal leg. The machine tried to push him back with more force, but Hayes did not move. The pressure around him broke the floor into pieces, but he stood firm like a mountain in a storm. He tapped the machine twice, like knocking on a door. "Hey," he said in a normal tone, "calm down." The machine's systems glitched. Its sensors flashed white, red, blue, then white again. It stepped backward, stumbling. Its legs scratched deep marks in the ground as it tried to stabilize itself. Hayes continued walking after it, relaxed, steady, like someone strolling through a quiet park. The recruits were still pinned to the floor, barely able to move. They watched with wide, terrified eyes as Hayes approached the machine again. The machine launched its sonic blast, a powerful scream of metal and energy that made the walls ripple and lights burst. The blast hit Hayes directly. His clothes flapped from the force, his ears rang lightly, but he kept walking. The machine panicked. It had never failed this many attacks. It had never seen something walk through all its weapons like nothing. The instructors behind the glass watched in complete shock. "Is this human insane?" one whispered. "Or is he stronger than the machine?" another said with shaking hands. The machine tried one last desperate move, raising both arms high to strike from both sides at once. Hayes looked at the machine as if looking at a child making a mistake. "Don't do that," he said softly, but the machine did not understand. It attacked with full power. Both arms came down with a force strong enough to fold steel walls. Hayes caught both arms with his hands. His body lowered slightly under the weight, but he did not fall. His boots cracked the floor under him, but he did not let go. He held the machine in place, locked in a struggle that no normal soldier could survive. the machine's engines roared, sparks flew, metal bent, its arms shook violently, trying to break free. Hayes looked up at the machine with calm eyes. "Okay, enough," he said, then he pushed, not hard, just a small push, but the machine was thrown backward like someone had kicked a small box. It crashed into the far wall, the whole building shaking from the impact. Broken metal pieces fell everywhere, steam hissed from its joints, it could not stand anymore. Every recruit stared at Hayes with fear and awe, their minds could not understand him, their bodies shook, their hearts pounded. They finally understood one thing: Hayes was not impressive because he survived the drill, Hayes was impressive because the drill survived him. Hayes dusted his hands and looked around. "So, what now?" he said. And the whole room felt cold, because everyone knew the machine was not the last danger on this death world. The training hall was silent, too silent, only the sound of broken metal and leaking steam filled the air. The giant machine lay crushed against the wall, its red lights flickering weakly. The recruits stared with terror in their eyes, still pinned to the ground by the last drops of the gravity wave. None of them dared to speak, none of them dared to move. They were afraid that even one sudden sound might wake another machine, or worse, wake the human's anger. Hayes looked at the wrecked metal beast like someone looking at trash left on the sidewalk. He sighed softly and stepped over a fallen piece of armor. His steps echoed gently across the ruined hull, each footstep calm, steady, almost too normal for a place like this. The recruits watched him like he was walking through fire without noticing. A deep voice crackled through the speakers above them. It was shaky, like someone on the other side was unsure if speaking to Hayes was safe. "Human Unit Hayes, please step away from the training equipment." He looked up at the speaker with a raised eyebrow. "It attacked me first," he said in a calm voice. Some recruits almost fainted hearing him talk so casually to the instructors. Suddenly the lights turned blue, then purple, then red again. A new alarm blared through the hall, louder and sharper than before. The walls vibrated with a deeper force, like something stronger was awakening. The instructors in the control room shouted in panic, "No, no, no, that system is not supposed to activate today. Shut it down, we can't, it is reading the human as a high-threat entity." The room filled with cold air, frost forming on the broken floors. A hidden panel in the far wall opened slowly with a heavy rumble. The recruits tried to crawl away but the last traces of gravity force still pinned many of them. Hayes turned his head toward the opening, his expression finally changing, not fear, not panic, just curiosity mixed with slight annoyance. "Another one," he muttered. From the dark chamber behind the panel, long metal claws scraped against the floor. The sound was deep, sharp, and hungry. A shadow moved slowly, growing larger with every step. The recruits held their breath, some covered their eyes, some whispered desperate prayers. They had heard stories of the thing inside that chamber, but none had ever seen it activated. A second machine stepped out, but this one looked nothing like the first. It was bigger, heavier, covered in dark metal plates with burning orange veins running through them. Its head was shaped like a hammer, its eyes glowing like twin suns. It stood upright like a giant armored warrior, almost touching the ceiling with its size. It was not a training unit, it was a punishment unit, built for breaking soldiers who broke the rules, built for dealing with real threats, built for war. The recruits screamed, "That's the Titan-class crusher, why is it here? We are going to die." The machine scanned the hall, its voice a deep echo. Primary threat detected. The glowing eyes locked directly onto Hayes. He blinked once, slowly, and then whispered, "Oh great." The Titan-class crusher stepped forward, and the floor cracked under its weight. Each footstep made the hall tremble. Dust fell like rain, lights burst above its head from the vibration. Its arms were massive with rotating blades and crushing jaws built into them. It was not designed for training, it was designed to end battles. Hayes stood in the center of the hall, hands in his pockets, his face calm but sharper than before. The machine roared, a sound so deep the recruits' chests shook. Some cried out, covering their ears, others curled their bodies tighter against the floor. Hayes only tilted his head like he heard an annoying car engine outside his window. The machine lowered its head and charged forward. It moved faster than something that size should ever move. Its body blurred with power, sparks flew from its feet, metal howled under the pressure of its sprint. Recruits pressed their faces against the ground, expecting Hayes to be crushed instantly. But the human stepped to the side casually, like someone avoiding a slow bicycle. The Titan-class crusher missed by inches and slammed into the wall. the impact shaking the entire building. Stone and metal exploded around it, the lights died completely for a second before flickering back on weakly. Hayes dusted some falling concrete from his shoulder and sighed, too loud. The machine pulled itself from the wall with a roar of broken metal gears, its eyes burned brighter, reading the human again, confused by his speed, confused by his calmness. It charged again, this time with both arms raised, ready to slice and crush at the same time. The attack was brutal, deadly, perfect for destroying anything in its path. Hayes moved again, but this time he didn't just dodge, he stepped inside the attack, closer to the machine. The recruits gasped, the instructors screamed at the screens, no one understood what the human was doing. Hayes placed one hand on the machine's burning hot chest plate, the surface glowed orange from energy buildup. Normal flesh should have melted on contact, but Hayes didn't react at all. The machine paused for a moment, confused, as if it couldn't understand why the human was touching it. Hayes looked up at the glowing eyes with a calm, almost bored expression. "You're too slow," he said softly. And then something in the machine's chest clicked, a small sound, but powerful. The machine's lights flickered, its legs shook, its arms froze. Something was wrong, something had changed. The machine tried to pull away, but it could not. Hayes stepped back slowly, and the machine took an unsteady step backward like it was afraid. The recruits stared in silent terror. Hayes had done something subtle, something impossible, and the Titan-class crusher knew it. The machine let out a deep, glitching roar, and the ground beneath it split open from the force. It prepared its most dangerous attack, the attack that only high-command machines were allowed to use. A bright sphere of energy formed in its core, glowing brighter and brighter. The recruits screamed, "No, that attack destroys everything, we will all die." Hayes watched the growing light with calm eyes. He whispered to himself, "Time to end this." And the room filled with blinding white light. The white light filled the entire hall like a silent sun. The recruits squeezed their eyes shut, some cried, some prayed, some simply held their breath. They all knew the Titan-class crusher's core blast erased anything within its range. There should be nothing left, not even dust, not even shadows. But when the light slowly faded, something impossible stood in the middle of the hall. Hayes was still there, standing calmly. His clothes were dusty, his hair messy, but he was alive, untouched, still breathing normally. The floor around him was cracked and melted, the walls burned black, and the ceiling lights hung half-broken, but he stood in the center like the blast had gently walked around him. The recruits stared in silent shock, their minds breaking under the sight. One alien whispered with a shaking voice, "He survived the core blast." Another whispered, "He didn't just survive, he didn't even flinch." No one knew how, no one could understand, even the machine could not understand. The Titan-class crusher's body sparked violently, its entire frame shaking, its glowing eyes dimmed then brightened again as it recalculated everything, recalculated the human. It had never seen a being resist a core blast, not in any fight, not in any war, not in any simulation. Its voice came out glitching and broken, "Threat, maximum, unknown classification, unknown, unknown." The machine tried to take a step forward, but its legs stumbled, its heavy feet scraping against the floor like steel claws sliding across glass. It was afraid, truly afraid. This was not training anymore, this was survival. Hayes looked at the shaking machine and let out a slow breath, his voice calm, almost gentle. "You need to stop before you hurt yourself more." The machine roared in panic, its core flickered like a dying star. It swung its giant arm at him, but the movement was wild, uncontrolled, terrified. Hayes didn't move back, he stepped forward, inside the attack, closer to the machine's center. The huge metal arm passed just behind him, missing him by a hair, crashing into the floor and breaking through it. The impact sent a shockwave across the hall, but Hayes didn't lose balance. He walked on the broken ground as if walking on smooth floor. The recruits couldn't understand what they were seeing. They had heard humans were tough, but this was not tough. This was something else, something far beyond anything they imagined. One alien whispered in fear, "Is he even human?" Another replied, "If he is, then humans are monsters." Hayes reached the machine's chest where the glowing orange cracks pulsed like a dying heart. He placed his hand on the metal again, gently, slowly. The surface was burning hot, but his skin didn't react. The machine tried to pull away, but Hayes held its armor with 2 fingers, stopping the entire massive body from moving even an inch. The machine's eyes flickered, confused, terrified. The human's strength did not make sense, his calmness did not make sense, his presence did not make sense. Stop, the machine said in a glitching voice. Stop, stop. Hayes shook his head calmly. No more attacks, he said softly. Then he pressed 2 fingers against a small glowing part on its chest plate, a part no recruit even knew existed, a part the instructors did not even teach about because no one was ever meant to reach that close. The machine's core flickered violently, its power systems roared, then suddenly cut off with a sound like a giant exhale. The Titan-class crusher froze completely, its arms lowered, its legs locked, its glowing eyes dimmed into darkness. It stood like a giant statue, unmoving, silent, defeated not by force, but by a single human touch. A machine built to break armies had been shut down by a man who looked like he had just finished a normal walk. Hayes stepped back and brushed dust off his hands. Finally, he muttered, I was getting tired of this noise. The recruits still could not move, their bodies shook, not from the gravity attack anymore, but from seeing the impossible again and again. Some stared at Hayes like he was a god, some stared like he was a monster, some stared like they were afraid to even think his name. One brave alien finally spoke, voice trembling. What are humans? Hayes turned his head and looked at them with a confused expression, as if he didn't understand the question himself. Humans, he said, are just humans, and somehow, that made the recruits even more scared. The lights flickered again, weak and dying. The hall was full of smoke, broken metal, cracked floors, and destroyed machines. It looked like a battlefield after a full-scale war. Hayes stood in the middle of it all, calm like he was standing in a quiet park back on Earth. Then a new sound came from above, a deep, powerful mechanical hum, stronger than both machines combined. The recruits froze again, fear returning stronger than before, because this sound was not part of training, not part of drills, not part of any simulation. Hayes looked up slowly, and his expression finally changed, just a little, a small frown, a small sign that even he felt something different. Something above the hall was waking up, something the instructors did not plan to activate, something older, stronger, and far more dangerous than anything before. And it was coming online because it detected one thing. A human. The deep mechanical hum above them grew louder, shaking dust from the ceiling like falling snow. The recruits looked up with fear in their eyes. They had never heard this sound before, not during any drill, not during any emergency, not during any war warning. This sound felt ancient, powerful, alive. Hayes tilted his head, listening. His calm expression remained, but there was a small sharpness now, a silent alertness, like he sensed something different, something serious. The ceiling plates shifted slowly, metal sliding against metal, creating a long scraping noise that crawled into everyone's bones. A round opening formed, glowing with cold blue light. The air turned icy, the recruit's breath turned white from the sudden cold. One alien whispered, voice shaking, that system, it was shut down for 100 years. Another whispered, they said it was too dangerous, even for Deathworld soldiers. No one knew why it was waking now, no one except the halls. Control AI. A voice echoed from the speakers, broken and glitching, threat level, beyond measurable limits, activating Prime Guardian, activating. The instructors in the control room screamed through the comms, cancel it, override it, shut it down, but the AI ignored them. It had detected a threat it considered unmatched, something that shook its entire logic system. It detected the human. From the glowing opening above, something slowly lowered down. It was not a machine made of steel and wires. It looked older, like an ancient relic built before modern war existed. Its body was covered in dark plates with glowing blue patterns running through them like veins. It had no eyes, no face, just a smooth helm-like surface, but its presence felt heavy, like a force pushing against the world itself. Every recruit's chest tightened under the weight of its arrival. Hayes stared at the descending figure, expression still calm but no longer bored. He whispered under his breath, now this is new. The Prime Guardian touched the ground without sound, not even a vibration. Silence spread across the hall like a thick blanket. The machine stood perfectly still, its blue energy veins pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. Every pulse made the room colder. The Guardian finally moved its head toward Hayes, and the blue lines across its body grew brighter. It raised one arm slowly, and the air around its hand began to twist, space bending like liquid. a swirling sphere of dark blue energy grew in its palm, something so dense and heavy that small cracks formed on the floor beneath it. It was not fire, not gravity, not electricity, it was something older, something unknown. The recruits whispered in pure horror, "That's a singularity core, why does it have that? That attack is forbidden." Hayes took a slow breath, his eyes on the swirling sphere. Unlike before, he did not step forward, he didn't rush, he didn't joke, he didn't sigh, he watched carefully, like someone studying a deadly animal ready to strike. The Guardian aimed the sphere directly at him. It fired. The entire hall bent inward as the attack tore through the air, pulling light with it, pulling sound, pulling breath. Everything twisted, the ground shook, walls bent, the recruits screamed, holding on to anything they could grab. Hayes did not move, he let the attack come closer, closer, until it was just a few inches from his chest, and then, something strange happened. The sphere slowed, its energy pulsed, like it had hit something invisible, something it couldn't pass. Hayes reached out with one hand, calmly, gently, and touched the edge of the swirling core. The moment his fingers connected with it, the energy shivered, flickered, and dimmed, like it was afraid. The Guardian tilted its head, confused. Hayes whispered, "You want to know what I am, don't you?" The singularity core flickered again, shrinking, its swirling edges froze in place like frozen water. Then Hayes closed his hand around it, slowly, carefully. The hall shook as the sphere cracked like glass, fragments of blue energy falling like tiny stars that faded before touching the ground, and then the whole attack vanished, gone as if it never existed. The Guardian stepped back, its body trembling, ancient metal groaning under fear. It had never seen its strongest attack stopped so easily. The recruits stared, unable to understand, unable to speak. Hayes looked at the Guardian with quiet eyes. "I'm tired of fighting machines today," he said softly. He took one step toward it, the Guardian took one heavy step back, its blue veins flickering like a frightened heartbeat. Hayes placed one hand on its chest plate, just like he did with the others, and the ancient machine froze, its glowing lines dimmed, its power faded. It stood perfectly still, defeated without a fight, defeated by a human's touch again. The hall went silent, dust settled slowly, the recruits lay on the broken ground, staring at Hayes like they were staring at something beyond reality. The instructors whispered through the speakers, their voices shaking, how is this possible?" Hayes looked around the destroyed hall, then looked at the silent Guardian. "So, is training over now?" he asked. But something unexpected happened next. The Prime Guardian's chest glowed weakly, and a small circular slot opened, revealing a tiny data core. It floated toward Hayes, stopping right in front of him as if offering itself. Hayes raised an eyebrow and took it. The recruiters watched in shock as the Guardian's voice whispered one last message before shutting down completely. "Human, origin unknown, potential, unmeasured, warning, more will come." Then the Guardian collapsed into silence forever. Hayes looked at the data core in his hand, turning it slowly. "More will come," he repeated softly. A small smile formed on his lips, calm but sharp. "Good," he whispered. Because deep down, he wasn't afraid. He was curious. And curiosity in a human was something the galaxy had never survived before.